Sandhan. All Gujarat Integrated Classroom.
સેટેલાઇટના માધ્યમથી જોડતી કડી એટલે સંધાન.
Welcome back, friends. As last time we met and we talked about comedy. We talked about what is comedy, theory of laughter, and even that we talked about the origin of comedy, including mystery and miracle plays. Now today that we are going to begin with types of comedy. As I said earlier that there are 5 types of comedy. The term comedy is divided into 5 different categories and accordingly the 5 types of comedies are: the first is romantic comedy, comedy of humor, comedy of manner, sentimental comedy, and black or dark comedy. Now here we will discuss in detail one by one all these 5 comedies. So let us begin with the first, romantic comedy. Now before we begin with what do we mean by romantic comedy, let us first of all see to the 5 best romantic comedies, and they are first is Twelfth Night by Shakespeare. The second is She Stoops to Conquer by Goldsmith. Third, The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde. Fourth, Pygmalion by Bernard Shaw. Fifth, Bleak Spirit by Noel Coward. Now these 5 are considered as the best examples of romantic comedy. Now there is one thing quite common in these 5 comedies, that is the mixture of love and laughter. So this is the very first condition of a comedy to make it a perfect romantic comedy, is this, that a comedy, or let us say a romantic comedy, must have this mixture of love and laughter. Now if we go into the origin of a romantic comedy, you will say that the first romantic comedy was Ralph Roister Doister. It was written by a headmaster of a school, namely Nicholas Udall, and he made his students perform this comedy for the first time on the stage. Then came Grammar Girton's Needles. Now so far as this romantic comedy is concerned, that we don't know about the authorship of this comedy, that who had written this comedy. Still it is considered as a romantic comedy. Now the third one is an honorable history of Friar Bacon and Friar Bungay. It's by Robert Greene. Now this particular comedy or romantic comedy is very important because it sets the pattern which was to be followed by most of the Elizabethan writers. Those who wanted to write comedy, namely a pattern of farcical qualities with dialogues in prose mixed with the theme of love and romance expressed in verse. So in this comedy, Robert Greene has paved a way of how to write perfect romantic comedy, that how he has mixed up farcical qualities with dialogues in prose and the theme of love and romance, that these themes are expressed in verse. So this is very important to notice that the farcical qualities of romantic comedy, they are presented in prose form, while the romantic scenes and love scenes are presented in a poetic form. So by mixing these things, that Robert Greene has given a kind of a pattern for rest of the Elizabethan writers about how to write a romantic comedy. Now, in this comedy, The Honorable History of Friar Bacon and Friar Bungay, they were two magicians, and they are in habit of making brass heads who was supposed to talk. So this foolery and clowning was provided by these two, Friar Bacon and Friar Bungay, while the love theme was supplied by Fair Margaret of Freshingfield, for whose love there is a quarrel between Prince of Wales and Lord Lacy. So, how the theme of love and laughter are mixed up in this romantic comedy, Friar Bacon and Friar Bungay. But this comedy is an important mark in the world of literature. It is because that, as I said, that this comedy has showed or paved a way for the rest of the Elizabethan dramatists to follow about how to write romantic comedy. So in this way, in the history of romantic comedy, it becomes an important step. It becomes an important comedy. Now, the other examples of best romantic comedies are Twelfth Night, As You Like It, A Midsummer Night's Dream. These are all the very famous romantic comedies by Shakespeare. Now, after Shakespeare, a romantic comedy was taken to its highest level. So the credit goes to Shakespeare, who took the form of romantic comedy to its best. And by writing many world famous romantic comedies, that Shakespeare made it famous around the world. Now, it is not only that Shakespeare wrote romantic comedies. There were other writers during Shakespeare's time who wrote certain successful romantic comedies. Those are Beaumont and Fletcher. One more thing, that if you think of A Midsummer Night's Dream, you will find a good deal of contrast. It will be surprising to see that some of the dialogues and incidents are quite lowly and indecent. Now there arises the question that why a dramatist like Shakespeare has introduced such characters and such dialogues in his comedies. Now the reason was that Shakespeare had to please two types of audiences. Now during 16th century, there were two types of audiences. Like on one hand, there were people who were aristocratic, educated, coming from upper class families, while there were also certain people who were uneducated, illiterate, and what we call very lowly people. Now those aristocratic and educated people, they enjoy poetry, they enjoy dialogues in verse, while they don't like lowly farcical dialogues and lowly characters. But at the same time, the people who are uneducated and illiterate, they rather wanted to have some silly dialogues in the comedy, because they think that it can entertain them. They cannot enjoy poetic dialogues. So in order to please both these types of people, that Shakespeare had to write comedies in such a way that both these types of audience can get entertainment. So you may find the theme of love and romance presented in the form of verse, while the farcical incidents and events are presented in prose. So this is one of the reasons for why Shakespeare has used such language, both, let us say, poetic and prosaic, in his comedies. So in this way, romantic comedy becomes very famous both in educated class of people and illiterate class of people. Now, as I said, other writers of romantic comedies, Beaumont and Fletcher. And there was also one more Thomas Dekker, who wrote The Shoemaker's Holiday. So this is something about romantic comedy and how that it became famous and how that Shakespeare took it to its highest level. Now the second kind of comedy is comedy of humor. Now, as romantic comedy or the term romantic comedy is attached with Shakespeare, likewise, comedy of humor or the term comedy of humor is attached with Ben Jonson. Now, it is said that Ben Jonson himself invented the phrase comedy of humor. Ben Jonson was a bricklayer. He had a very eventful life. He was a soldier. He also was an actor, and but he was very productive writer. Now his comedies that is the comedies written by Ben Jonson are Every Man in His Humor, Every Man Out of His Humor, The Silent Woman, Volpone, The Alchemist, and Bartholomew Fair. Now Ben Jonson believed that comedy should not be true to life but larger than life. This is something very important to understand, that what do we actually mean by these particular sentence, that comedy should not be true to life but larger than life. He even says that the character should present, that they should be the personification of certain passion, human passion or weakness. Now this means that according to Ben Jonson, that comedy should not be true to life. Comedy should not show life as it is. It should not be the mirror of life as it is. It should not mirror of nature as it is. Instead, it should present life in a larger scale, on a larger scale, in a better way. That is to say, characters who are natural in day-to-day life should be showed as personification of certain passions or weakness. This is how most of the characters of his comedies are drawn. For example, Every Man Out of His Humor, he has presented certain characters, let us say Kitty. Now this person is very jealous of his own young beautiful wife. Now this jealousy is his humor. According to Ben Jonson, that human life or all human beings are they are made of 4 elements. Now this particular theory of humor Ben Jonson got from medieval doctors. In order to support his theory of comedy of humor, Ben Jonson tried to take up the theory given by medieval doctors, and the theory was that the doctors believed that human body is made up of 4 elements: earth, air, water and fire. Now that excess of any one element will decide your temperament. So humor, that is the word humor here, means a kind of a passion or a kind of a feeling in excess in a human being. So humor here doesn't mean what we mean in day-to-day life. It is not having a general meaning. It has a special meaning here. It means a passion or a weakness in excess in a human being. As I earlier said, that our body is made up of 4 elements: earth, water, fire and air. Now, excess of any of these elements will decide your temperament. So, if you have, for example, fire in excess, that means you are energetic, you are angry, you are hot tempered. If you have water in excess, that means that you are passive, inactive, spiritless. So, this is how that medieval doctors used to prove that every person has a particular humor in him or her. So, this is the theory which was taken up. Of course, the theory was quite out of date, but it was taken up by Ben Jonson to support his term comedy of humor. So, he said that comedy should be larger than life and not true to life, meaning that comedy should show human being larger than the actual life. So, most of the characters of his drama, for example, one of the characters in his drama is very anxious about his son's future. Now, anxiety is his humor, which rules over him throughout his life. So, this is how Ben Jonson tried to support his theory of comedy of humor. Let me add one more thing, that though Ben Jonson and Shakespeare, both of them were contemporaries, and in comparison to Ben Jonson, Shakespeare became a famous dramatist, world famous dramatist, but still today also there is a group of people who enjoyed the comedies of Ben Jonson more than Shakespeare. The reason maybe is this, that certain group of people, they enjoyed witty dialogues, intellectual comments more than farcical situations and incidents of Shakespearean comedies. So, in this sense, sometimes comedy of humor becomes more popular among people than romantic comedy. But still, it is to be kept in mind that as and when you refer to the term comedy of manner, or comedy of humor, you must remember Ben Jonson. As and when you discuss a romantic comedy, you have to refer to the name of Shakespeare, and along with Shakespeare, Beaumont, Fletcher and Thomas Dekker, of course, are there. Likewise, with comedy of humor, there is always Ben Jonson. So, this is something about comedy of humor. Now, coming to the comedy of manners. Now, comedy of manners, as earlier I said, that the way comedy of humor, that is the term, is connected with Ben Jonson. Likewise, comedy of manners is a phrase which connects some 4 restoration dramatists, especially 2 restoration dramatists, Congreve and Wycherley. Of course, it also includes Sheridan and Oscar Wilde. But it is a type of comedy which can flourish in any civilized urban society. It makes fun not of individual human beings but of certain social groups and their manners. This is what is the speciality of comedy of manners. It is generally more or less satirical in tone, though in a very good natured way. Critics who object to the low moral tone of such restoration comedy sometimes forget that Wycherley, in his play The Country Wife, was showing the moral weakness of a particular social group, asking us to laugh at it but not necessarily to approve of it. So, these writers of comedy of manners, they make fun of the whole social group and they are not against individual follies. That's what is said in The Country Wife when Wycherley makes fun of of the follies, of the mistakes of particular group of people, so that an individual can never be offended, and that too in a very good natured way. He makes us laugh at them. But when we laugh at them, it doesn't mean that we are approving of their follies and mistakes. So these particular types of comedy, this comedy of manner, it laughs at the sophisticated and aristocratic manners of 18th century upper class people. It represents what kind of hollow life, what kind of fashionable life that 18th century upper class people used to live. So it represents 18th century people. If you read Sheridan and Oscar Wilde in The Importance of Being Honest and Sheridan in The School for Scandal, you will see that how both of them make fun of a kind of or a group of people who believe in too sophisticated a life and too much of mannerism. Now, by laughing at such group of people, they actually want to point at the mistakes and follies of the society. In, of course, not in satirical or not in a bitter way, but in a very good natured, light hearted way. So that's why Sheridan makes one of his characters in The School for Scandal speak. There is Lady Sneerwell, one of the characters in School for Scandal, where she says that in order to laugh at somebody, that you have to be a bit bitter, you have to be a bit cruel. Unless and until you be cruel, you cannot laugh at people. Now, this particular comedy, The School for Scandal, becomes so very famous that almost all its characters become immortal. Very cleverly, that Sheridan has given names to different characters of The School for Scandal, just to laugh at the snobbish of these people, the snobbery of these people. That's why Lady Sneerwell, that how this lady can sneer but in a very beautiful way. Likewise, there is another character, Mr. Benjamin Backbite, that a person who is in habit of talking ill of others at their backs. So this is how, by giving such names to the characters of his comedy, Sheridan is being satirical, is mocking at the snobbishness of 18th century upper class people. So this is about comedy of manners, which was considered as a genuine comedy, because the only purpose of these comedies was to entertain us, to entertain people, to provide amusement. But what happened, that after comedy of manners, that slowly genuine comedy comes to its end. Now, after these four writers of comedy of manners, Wycherley, Congreve, Sheridan, Oscar Wilde, that there was a person called Jeremy Collier. Now, Jeremy Collier, he was a churchman and he was a Puritan. Because he was a Puritan and a churchman, that he was very strict about certain rules and regulations. He was a classical man, and so he wrote a book called Short View of the Immortality and Profaneness of English Stage. Now, in this book, that Jeremy Collier wrote against the comedy of manners. He made it clear that English stage needed cleaning up. That comedies like Comedy of Manners is spoiling the stage, and that being a Puritan and being a churchman, he must do something in order to clean up the English theatre. So he was against this Comedy of Manners. The result was that slowly genuine comedy like Comedy of Manners dies, and comes up a new kind of comedy called sentimental comedy. So this sentimental comedy actually was not a genuine comedy. It is because that the purpose of these kinds of sentimental comedies was to preach. Now, with the emergence of sentimental comedy, there was again a dispute among some dramatists that what actually should be the purpose of comedy. Is the purpose of comedy is to entertain or to preach? Now, the person who believed in preaching, the person who believed in the purpose of preaching and teaching moral lesson was Richard Steele. Along with Jeremy Collier, Richard Steele also believed that English stage needed cleaning up. So, Richard Steele wrote some 2-3 comedies, some what you call sentimental comedies. But the fact was that Richard Steele was basically an essayist. He, with his friend Joseph Addison, wrote certain world famous essays, and in collaboration with Joseph Addison, both of them had published magazines called The Spectator and The Tatler, in which they used to publish their essays regarding certain social and political problems and political issues, of course. So, being basically an essayist, though Richard Steele wrote some 2 dramas like The Funeral and The Conscious Lovers, he couldn't be so very famous. Now, because that these were sentimental comedies written with the intention of expressing moral sentiments. So, Richard Steele believed that comedy should not only entertain, it also should preach certain moral lessons, especially moral sentiments. So, the characters, they don't entertain the audience, instead they keep on giving moral lessons. It was a kind of naked display of immoderate virtue, such as moderate audience could not endure. Now, because that he believed that English stage needed cleaning up and that we must teach and preach certain moral lessons through comedy, so his comedies were not called genuine comedies. And the way sentiments, hollow sentiments, were used as moral lessons for the audience in these comedies, that the audience disliked it. It is because the audience felt that they were taught moral lessons, they were given moral sentiments without giving them the chance to reply. Now, nobody will like to listen to anybody's advices without having a chance to reply. Now, here what happened, that the audience had to sit tight and will have to listen to whatever moral sentiments are expressed in the sentimental comedies. So, this is how the audience despised sentimental comedy. So, in spite of the sincere efforts by Richard Steele, in spite of those two comedies written by Richard Steele, The Funeral and The Conscious Lovers, that sentimental comedy could not be succeeded on the English stage because the audience didn't like it. And one more thing, that because Richard Steele himself was not basically a dramatist. So because of all these things, that sentimental comedy also could not be successful. This is what you can see even in The School for Scandal, which is considered as a genuine comedy. The School for Scandal, written by Sheridan, in which Sheridan deliberately depicted a character called Joseph Surface, who was showed in this comedy as a sentimental fool, a sentimental person. So every now and then you will find Joseph Surface speaking moral sentiments, like all that glitters is not gold, or when there is a will there is a way. So he is in habit of speaking such moral sentiments every now and then, though actually he is very corrupt a character. Still, as and when he speaks ideals. So deliberately Sheridan has presented such character in his Comedy of Manners to make people realize that Comedy of Manners is a genuine comedy and sentimental comedy is not a genuine comedy. It is because the purpose of comedy must be to entertain people, and preaching and teaching should not be the part of a genuine comedy. So in this sense, the writers of Comedy of Manners, who consider themselves as the writers of genuine comedy, made fun of sentimental comedies. So this is how that sentimental comedy also comes to its end. And later, of course, people wrote certain comedies, but they were either called the dramas of commitment or the drama of social consciousness, under that title that certain comedies were written, but that also were not so very popular. Now, after the death of a sentimental comedy, a kind of a phase appear where it so happened that people or dramatists, they found it difficult to categorize certain dramas into these two categories, what you call comedy and tragedy also. Now there are also certain dramas which are not perfectly comedies, and at the same time they are not perfectly tragedies. So a question arises here that such dramas which cannot be called perfect tragedies and cannot be called perfect comedies. Now what type of dramas they are? Are they comedy? No. Are they tragedy? No. Then are they tragicomedy or comic tragedy? So there arises a confusion. So to find a way out of it, a new type of comedy emerges, what is called black or dark comedy. Black or dark comedy, where you find the unusual mixture of a comedy and tragedy. Now this type of comedy, black or dark comedy, it is actually a phrase used for the comedies which cannot be called completely a tragedy or completely a comedy. Here you can list Shakespeare's Measure for Measure and Troilus and Cressida. Even you can add Eliot's The Cocktail Party. Now unhappy at having no ready-made name to attach to this kind of plays, historian have invented this black or dark, this new phrase black and dark comedy. These are the comedies from which you do not get many good laughs. So if you read Measure for Measure of Shakespeare or Troilus and Cressida, the expectation with which you have spent the money to go to the theatre, the expectation that you will be able to laugh, that it will be very amusing a drama, that your expectation might get that is you may be wrong in expecting that these comedies will provide good laughs to you. It is because there is nothing which can be called comic characters or amusing situations or comic events in these dramas, Measure for Measure, Troilus and Cressida, even the Cocktail Party. Instead, some of the situations and some of the characters are very sad and full of pain. But still, these dramas, Troilus and Cressida and Measure for Measure, though they don't make you laugh, still they are included under the title comedy. So that's why these dramas are called black or dark comedies. It is because they are not genuine comedy. It is because they don't make you laugh. It is because they don't entertain you. Instead, they are very near to tragedy. That some of the situations and some of the incidents are quite tragic here. That it makes fun of human greatness also. So this is how they present the darker side of life, a side which is seen in many later plays loosely called comedies. So it is showing or presenting the darker side of human life. Unlike other comedies, black or dark comedies, they show the dark side of human life, where you may find certain painful incidents. There is every possibility that these comedies, though full of sad scenes and events, still ends happily, but still the atmosphere throughout the comedy remains gloomy. So these plays, because they typically present the darker side of life, they are called what you call black or dark comedy. So this is how we can see that these sorts of drama, that they are not called genuine comedies. So we can say that now with the end of Comedy of Manners, that genuine comedy dies. Though after Comedy of Manners, as we have discussed, that sentimental comedy and even black or dark comedies were there, but still they were not called genuine comedies. And with Comedy of Manners, genuine comedy dies. It may be because of Jeremy Collier, who was against Comedy of Manners, who believed that Comedy of Manners is indecent and it should not be showed on the stage. So this is how genuine comedy dies and comes up sentimental and black or dark comedy, but both these types of comedy could not be so very famous. Actually speaking, as the writer R.J. Rees of our textbook English Literature, as he says, that this kind of distinction like tragedy and comedy this distinction is quite silly, that you cannot distinguish drama into these two categories, comedy and tragedy. That you cannot say that this particular drama is comedy and this is a tragedy. It all depends upon one's perception. that there is every possibility that the drama which is comedy for you might be tragedy for me. How I look at that drama, that is something important, which makes it a comedy or a tragedy. Of course, for students of literature, it is easier and simpler to have this kind of distinctions of different types of comedy, right? But it's not good. It is because that such a distinction can be very subjective. As earlier I said that the drama which is a comedy for you might not be a comedy for me, and the drama which is a tragedy for you might not be a tragedy for me. So in this sense, to differentiate drama into comedy and tragedy is something very silly. That's what happened even in the modern time, that after the death of genuine comedy, that whatever comedies were written in the modern times, that there you cannot distinguish between a comedy and a tragedy. So the dramas which were written in the modern times, they were called only dramas, because if you read those dramas, you cannot say whether this drama is a comedy or a tragedy. So in this sense, such distinction is not possible so far as modern dramas are concerned. So if we think of modern dramas, and if we focus on, let us say, the first and most famous modern dramatist John Osborne and his drama Look Back in Anger, you will see that this drama cannot be categorized between a tragedy and a comedy. It cannot be called perfectly a comedy, it can never be called a perfect tragedy. It is a drama. It is simply a drama. So this is how, though it's easy for the students of literature to prepare answers for examination, that they have this distinction of 5 types of comedies, right? But it's very silly of us to categorize comedy in this way. So in short, what we study today is this 5 types of comedies. We talked about comedy in the beginning, then we started talking about 5 types of comedy, in which we began with romantic comedy, comedy of humor, comedy of manners, sentimental comedy, black or dark comedy. So, and I told you that how these comedies came to its end, and who are the writers or dramatists connected with these 5 types of comedy. Especially, you must remember that what is a comedy and the types of comedy can be asked as long question. At the same time, any one type of a comedy can be asked as a short note. What you have to concentrate upon is this, that when you are talking about comedy of humor, let us say, you must refer to Ben Jonson. You must think of that theory of comedy of humor. You must know that how some of the characters of Johnson's drama, for example, Old Novel, Captain Bobadil, who was very talkative but cowardly old soldier, and boastfulness is his humor. You must explain what actually do we mean by the term humor, and how and what theory was applied to explain the term comedy of humor. So this is how the 5 types of comedy that we discussed. Romantic comedy means Shakespeare, along with those 5 best examples of romantic comedy. Secondly, comedy of humor means Ben Jonson. Thirdly, comedy of manners means Wycherley, Congreve, Oscar Wilde and Sheridan. Sentimental comedy means Richard Steele the essayist. And black or dark comedy, you can include Shakespeare again with the two comedies which are called black or dark comedies, like Measure for Measure and Troilus and Cressida. But again, that you should end up like that, this kind of distinction is not possible in modern times. And the modern writers, when they write dramas, their dramas cannot be categorized between a comedy and a tragedy. Forget about the types of comedy, they are just dramas. So that's all. Thank you very much.
Sandhan. All Gujarat Integrated Classroom.
સેટેલાઇટના માધ્યમથી જોડતી કડી એટલે સંધાન.